Here's why I don't date black women. Listen to me when I'm talking.
Imagine a man who just got out of prison after 11 years, goes on a podcast and boldly says, "I don't date black women because they don't know how to stay in their place." Then, in the middle of the argument, he pulls out his Indian girlfriend as proof that she's a 10 compared to black women. But here's the real question, is he speaking facts? Or is this just a broken man trying to disguise his own failures? Today, we're breaking it all down, and trust me, you don't want to miss this. On a recent episode of the BK Chat London podcast, a familiar name in the UK social media space stepped into the spotlight once again. The influencer who calls himself Ginger J, a moniker, most likely inspired by his hair color, skin tone, or perhaps both, sparked a heated exchange that has since rippled across online communities. His presence on the podcast wasn't surprising. He has built a reputation as someone who rarely shies away from controversy. But the way events unfolded that night pushed him from being just another outspoken internet personality into a trending topic that lit up comment sections and sparked debates about race, respect, and relationships. To understand why this moment struck such a nerve, it helps to look at who Ginger J is. His story is complicated. Just a few years ago, he walked out of prison after serving an 11-year sentence, a past that continues to shape public perception of him. For some, his re-emergence was proof of resilience and reinvention. In 2022, he found a new lane for himself, online, turning to TikTok, where he gained traction through comedic skits, raw commentary, and public appearances. His approach was blunt, often unfiltered, and sometimes funny. Yet with that style came inevitable controversy, and his name has regularly appeared in conversations about divisive takes and inflammatory remarks. This time, however, the storm centered on something deeper than just online antics. During the BK Chat discussion, Ginger J entered into a heated back and forth with several black women from the UK audience. What started as a casual exchange quickly escalated into a pointed confrontation, one that touched on long-standing tensions about how black women are perceived and respected, both inside and outside the community. The spark came from a provocative claim. Ginger J stated outright that he avoids dating black women because, in his view, they don't stay in their place. That single remark acted like fuel on dry wood. Immediately, the women on the panel challenged him, pushing back against what they saw as both a stereotype and a disrespectful generalization. The energy shifted from conversation to confrontation in an instant. This moment mattered because it wasn't just about one man's personal dating preference. It tapped into a much larger and more painful conversation about respectability, desirability, and the ways in which black women are often unfairly criticized even within their own communities. For many viewers, the exchange echoed comments they had heard before from men on both sides of the Atlantic. In America, similar rhetoric has circulated for years, with some black men echoing the idea that black women are too difficult or unwilling to conform to traditional roles. By raising the same argument in London, Ginger J spotlighted how these debates transcend borders, linking communities through shared struggles and disagreements. But beyond the cultural implications, the situation also revealed something about Ginger J himself. Here was a man with a tumultuous past, still carving out his path, now positioning himself as a voice worth listening to on matters of relationships and culture. The irony was not lost on his critics. They asked the obvious question, what gives him the authority to dismiss an entire group of women, especially when his own life circumstances don't exactly set him apart as an exemplary figure? Still, his words carried enough weight to dominate social media in the hours and days that followed. Clips of the exchange spread rapidly, drawing reactions from those who felt validated by his perspective, and many more who condemned it as harmful and demeaning. The polarization was striking. Some saw it as just another example of Ginger J's tendency to stir the pot. Others recognized it as a dangerous reinforcement of narratives that black women have fought against for generations. And so, what began as a simple conversation on a podcast turned into something much larger, a cultural flashpoint, a reflection of deeper fractures within the community, and a case study in how a single claim delivered with enough confidence can ignite a debate that lingers far beyond the room where it was first spoken.
Date black women because you don't like to get put in your place.
Which place?
Your place.
Which
and when you
place?
get put in your place, you think you got taught like a man.
That's why they were cheating on you then.
You're not men.
That's why they were
Watch
cheating
this.
on you.
Stay in your place. So where's your hair? Where's your Where's your hair? Take off your head,
triggered.
Where's your hair?
You're triggered.
Where's your hair? I'm
What's
triggered.
supposed to hurt?
I said I was
You're
triggered.
triggered.
Did I not say I was?
During the exchange, Ginger J laid out his reasoning. He claimed he avoids dating black women because, in his view, they don't stay in their place. It's not the first time this idea has surfaced. Many black men in the US have voiced similar sentiments, and it appears the same debate is unfolding in London. In fact, some black men in the UK might find themselves siding with him, especially considering that interracial dating is more common there than among African Americans. Part of the difference lies in demographics. In the United States, over 40 million people share the same ethnic background, creating a strong internal community. In Britain, however, the black population is smaller and more fragmented, split between African and Caribbean heritage. Alongside a white majority, this dynamic can shape how people see themselves and who they choose to date. With that context in mind, the podcast discussion grew more heated. Ginger J's remarks clashed directly with a Nigerian woman on the panel, and the back between them quickly intensified. That's when things took a sharper turn.
Wait for it.
Jumping.
And I'll bring my natural hair
Jumping.
Indian woman in here now.
And then what?
she looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on your block.
But the crowd was silent. The crowd
Out
was
here with
silent.
fake hair. Fake hair.
At one point during the heated exchange, Ginger J decided to raise the stakes. Instead of sticking to his earlier comments about black women, he pivoted the conversation toward his personal relationship as supposed proof of his point. With a smirk and noticeable confidence, he boasted about his Indian girlfriend, describing her as a 10 and highlighting what he considered her most valuable asset, her real hair. The comment was not just a casual remark, it was deliberately pointed at the woman across from him, who was wearing a wig. By drawing this comparison, Ginger J implied that her beauty was somehow manufactured, less genuine, and therefore less valuable. It was an intentional insult meant to undermine her in front of the audience, and the sting of it was obvious. Although the woman chose not to fire back directly, her silence in that moment spoke volumes. The air in the room shifted. What had been a back-and-forth argument now carried a sharper edge. One where dignity and respect were being openly tested. But Ginger J didn't stop there. Doubling down, he repeated his claim. His Indian partner not only looked better but also represented authentic beauty without artificial enhancements. The repetition wasn't necessary for clarity. It was meant to drive the insult deeper. And while he may have thought he was securing the upper hand in the exchange, what he was really doing was exposing the fragility of his argument. His attempt to elevate one woman by tearing another down reflected less on them and more on his own insecurities. Once the episode aired, the fallout was swift. The remarks didn't remain confined to the walls of BK Chat London, they exploded. Across the internet, viewers clipped the most incendiary moments and spread them across platforms. Twitter threads dissected his language. Instagram pages circulated the video with fiery captions, and TikTok creators stitched the clip, adding their own commentary and critiques. The central theme was clear. People were outraged, and they weren't going to let his words slide. The backlash snowballed when the Shade Borough, often considered the UK's version of The Shade Room, picked up the story. With its massive following, the platform amplified the controversy to an even wider audience, ensuring that Ginger J's comments reached not just those familiar with the podcast but also everyday social media users who may never have heard of him before. Overnight, his name was everywhere, trending across multiple platforms and dominating conversations about race, beauty, and respect in relationships. For Ginger J, the criticism was impossible to ignore. The internet is unforgiving, and once your words go viral, there's no taking them back. Faced with mounting pressure, he eventually felt compelled to respond. But here's where the irony kicked in. His response sounded far softer, almost apologetic, compared to the sharp tone he used during the show. He claimed he did, in fact, admire black women and their beauty, and he attempted to walk back his earlier statements. Yet for many, the damage was already done. His defense came across less like genuine reflection and more like an attempt to save face. This moment was bigger than Ginger J's personal preference. It raised larger questions about how women are judged, the weight placed on physical traits like hair, and the double standards that exist within communities of color. Black women have long been criticized for their beauty choices, whether they wear their hair natural, braided, relaxed, or covered with a wig. To use those choices as ammunition in an argument wasn't just petty, it tapped into a painful history of policing. black women's appearance and undermining their worth. What Ginger J may have seen as a clever jab turned into a cultural flashpoint. It revealed how fragile some men's ideas of beauty and worth can be, and how quickly a personal preference can morph into a public insult that reverberates far beyond its original setting. In trying to elevate his own relationship, he unintentionally exposed not just his views but also a deeper issue in the way women are valued or devalued in public discourse.
I've watched it. You lot have watched it, right? Cool. There's a thing on Instagram circulating about my apology yesterday. Yes, I apologize for my actions because my temper went way too. I should have controlled my temper. That is it. That is it, and that is all I'm apologizing for. Let's be very clear here. Everything I said was true. Everything I said was true, and everything I said was a fact because I was talking about me. I stated clearly at the beginning, it's about me. I stated clearly twice, I'm not generalizing, it's about the women I've dated. It's about me. They asked me questions about me, not about the world, about me. It was all about me. I kicked off about me. I didn't kick off about generalizing. So, anybody that's upset with generalizing, that's on you. I didn't generalize all black women. I said, take off your wig. I said, show me your hair. And I've said it numerous times in my life. Numerous times because I love to see black hair. I love it. It's better than the wigs. So take off your wig and show me your hair. Because I'm tired of you being fake. Okay, simple as that. That's one thing explained. Whether you like it or not, that's what I said, and that's why I said it. I'm not the first black man to say it, I'm not the last black man to say it. And many more will say it because we are tired of black women wearing fake wigs because they have beautiful hair. All black women have beautiful hair. Whether your hair is as bald as mine, black women, you know how to grease it up and shave up the sides and make it look good. Because that's what black people do. So take off your wig and show me your hair.
In the aftermath, Ginger J shifted gears and issued an apology. He insisted that he actually appreciates black beauty, black hair, black women, black culture. But the timing of his defense raised eyebrows. Viewers couldn't help but point out that he had the chance to affirm that sentiment during the podcast itself. Yet instead he highlighted his Indian girlfriend's natural straight hair as superior to a wig. Now, his apology seemed more like damage control than genuine reflection. To his credit, he did take partial accountability, framing his comments as rooted in his own life experiences. Still, many saw it as an attempt to save face under pressure. And considering that the entire black community in London was now calling him out, it's not hard to see why he felt the need to backpedal. But just when it seemed the drama might settle, things escalated even further.
From us black women to you, we don't care if you don't like us. Just have some respect. Why can you not give your preference without being disrespectful? It's not needed. Why did you need to be so aggressive? Why did you need to talk in a way that is degrading to black women? You don't have to date your race. There's no law that says you have to. I'm pretty sure you have a black mother. You may have black sisters. Would you be okay with men speaking about them like that? The internet has been talking about his looks. They found his girlfriend and speaking about her looks. I don't agree with that. We don't need to stoop down to his level. We are better.
One of the women in the conversation made a powerful point. If Ginger J had a personal preference, he could have simply kept it to himself. Instead, he went out of his way to demean a black woman in public. She also noted that people online quickly identified his girlfriend thanks to a TikTok post he himself had shared before deleting it. That sparked a new wave of commentary, as images of the woman he'd been bragging about began circulating. Now, it's not my place to critique anyone's partner, but let's be real, his exaggerated praise didn't quite match reality. Yes, she may have long, natural hair, but presenting her as the ultimate dime piece felt like an unnecessary attempt to elevate her by tearing down black women. In doing so, Ginger J not only disrespected the woman he was arguing with, but also dragged his girlfriend into unwanted scrutiny. She didn't ask for this spotlight. Yet now her photos were being passed around as part of his controversy. And this all ties back to the way he carried himself during that exchange, raising his voice, demanding, "Listen to me when I'm talking to you." That single moment revealed as much about his approach as anything else, he said.
I don't think black, what are black women supposed to do? Oh my God, you don't date us? Like what's the expectation? When you say stupid shit like that, what's the expectation? Are niggas supposed to be like, oh my God, please expand on why you don't? Like what? And then you follow up with, listen to me. Why? Why should I listen to you? Why shouldn't you? Haven't shown any type of leadership skills. You haven't shown any type of intelligence in any way, shape, or...
Another voice on the show cut straight to the core of the issue with a sharp, almost rhetorical question. Why should women listen to you? The simplicity of the question carried enormous weight. It silenced the noise for a moment and reframed the entire conversation. Here was a man who had just recently walked out of prison after serving an 11-year sentence, now speaking as though his decision to reject black women should matter to them. But in truth, many weren't concerned about his preferences at all. His words might have been louder than most, but the substance behind them was thin. And that is where the deeper problem lay. Relationships within the black community, like in any community, are complex. There are cultural nuances, generational divides, personal traumas, and social pressures that influence who people date and how they view one another. Some black men and women do choose to date outside of their race, sometimes for love, sometimes for preference, and sometimes due to systemic ideas about desirability. But even in the midst of those layered realities, one fact remains: when you stand on shaky ground without stability, without proven consistency, without a clear sense of direction, it becomes nearly impossible to demand respect from others. Leadership is not something you can declare into existence with a loud voice. It must be earned through character, provision, and integrity. This is precisely why the audience, and later much of the online world, found his stance hollow. It wasn't just that Ginger J held a controversial view. It was that he lacked the foundation to deliver it with any credibility. He wasn't a man speaking from a position of strength, achievement, or steady leadership. He was someone still rebuilding his life after a decade behind bars, cobbling together recognition through social media and comedy sketches. That context didn't invalidate his personal experiences, but it certainly undermined his ability to speak as though his rejection of black women carried authority or significance for the community at large. His own words after leaving prison underscored the irony. He admitted in interviews and clips that dating felt harder once he returned to society. Instead of reflecting on how his own circumstances might have played a role in that difficulty, he brushed it off with a laugh, blaming cancel culture and then joking that he couldn't be canceled because he was black and ginger. The quip might have landed as comedy to some, but beneath it was a telling truth. His struggles with women weren't really about wigs, hair texture, or cultural differences. They were about his own standing as a man navigating the realities of life after incarceration. And this is where critics drew their strongest conclusions. Respect isn't something that can be demanded with words. It has to be supported by action. If you're not offering provision, vision, or consistency, how can you realistically expect women, or anyone for that matter, to stay in their place under your leadership? Respect is not tied to gender roles alone. It's tied to competence, reliability, and the ability to build something stable that others want to be a part of. Plenty of men in the black community embody those traits every day. There are brothers building businesses, working demanding jobs, leading families, and making sacrifices to create better futures. These men don't have to belittle women or pit one race of women against another to validate their worth. Their actions speak louder than their claims. By contrast, Ginger J's reliance on podcast appearances and social media chatter highlights a stark gap between the image he tries to project and the reality of what he provides. At the heart of the backlash was not just his praise of his Indian girlfriend, nor simply his insults toward black women. The outrage stemmed from the contradiction he embodied, demanding recognition as a leader without displaying the qualities of one. The more he spoke, the clearer it became that his criticism of black women said far less about the man, far more about his own insecurities and shortcomings.